Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another client success interview. Today, I have one of our top students and a good friend of mine, Drew Favre. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's not Favre, it's Favre. Drew is a student of ours who joined in 2021. He has a pretty incredible journey of how he started this business on the road, but eventually he got to a point to where he lived in San Diego and we were able to train pretty consistently. And, Drew is someone that I learned a lot from when it came to fitness, and he sees opportunity, he seizes it, and he's been able to, exponentially grow over the last couple of years. So wanted to introduce you, Drew. Why don't you go ahead and give people a little bit of an idea as to who you are, what your life looks like today, and where you're at.
Yeah, so I'm from originally South Louisiana. And like Zach said, my girlfriend and I, actually, we both kind of started our businesses while traveling. So we bought a camper, spent 3.5 months traveling, living completely off the grid and trying to start up and run our online coaching business. So while we were traveling and stuff, we were absorbing all the PTBI content and trying to implement it to the best of our ability. And, we were able to get some clients here and there from it. But after that 3.5 months, and coming meeting Zach here in San Diego, we just settled in. That's when things really started. That's when business really started to go, was January of last year when we got settled into San Diego. And we're still here now. We left for 4 months and went to Houston and then came back because I just love San Diego here so much. And I find it's the best place for me personally right now to grow my business with the energy, the environment, and all the people.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, just to add a little bit more into that, they pretty much started their PTBI program on the road, like literally like road tripping. So they listened to the lessons over the car stereo and
Yep.
then implement what they learned whenever they parked and camped. But Drew, I know that you have a ton of value and golden nuggets to share with people here. So,
Yeah.
first, why don't you go ahead and talk about, the environment that you grew up in South Louisiana? Because I know that a couple of years ago you were working 80-hour weeks, barely had time for yourself, were still able to train, but you had this mindset that was just full of passion, full of motivation, and the people around you, based on what you told me, pretty much they were on the same page. So why don't you
Yeah.
tell people about that where you grew up?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of just like any other small town. Honestly, it doesn't matter whether you're from South Louisiana or any smaller town. There's small town limiting beliefs that a lot of people have. It was no different for me, whereas I was this person who was so passionate about fitness and genuinely wanting to make a massive positive impact on the world. I just didn't know how, right? I didn't know what that actually looked like. I just knew that's what I needed to do with my life. And when I would share it with peers, coworkers, family, friends, it was essentially just shut down. Like there was no hope for it. There was no inspiration there. It was just people really putting the idea down and like, well, what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? Like just common, like small town limiting beliefs of just everyone thinking small, everyone thinking, not to put down the people in my hometown because I love a lot of those people there, but almost thinking like a hater, like rather than being abundant and open-minded and knowing that there's enough for everybody and knowing that every single person who has a dream can win and their winning doesn't take away from yours. It was more of a hater mentality. And as much as it sucks to say, like I got swamped up in it a little bit as well, right? Where like I didn't realize it and it was much less than my peers, but I still had a very closed mind, kind of not a hater, but like I said, very closed minded. And like seeing other people succeed just made me feel like I couldn't succeed because they were already winning, because that's what was just put around me. And so it took all of my might and all of my willpower just to get the courage to actually take that leap. It literally took everything in my being to overcome that resistance from my environment. And I'm sure a lot of people out there, if you're watching this thinking about joining PTBI, I'm sure a lot of you guys can probably relate to that. Whereas the resistance from your environment is just so overwhelming that the idea of having a six-figure coaching business doesn't even seem possible. You're just fighting for that idea of the dream right now. And that's where I was at for a long time before I joined PTBI.
So, how did you break free from that mindset and that environment? Was there any specific moment that was a breaking point for you? I know for me in my journey, my breaking point was, the fact that one, I wasn't getting hired at any other jobs that I was applying to, and frankly, I was just too lazy to put any effort into applying for other jobs. Two, I got passed up by a promotion at work, so I was spending, another year as a busser. And three, I got denied at college. So those three kind of led me to a breaking point where I'm like, I need to do my own thing. So, did you have a specific moment in your journey where you're like, you know what, fuck this, I'm going all in on me?
I respect when people have those moments, but there was no one moment for me. It was the subtle feeling of my soul being crushed. Like, I know that sounds a little dramatic, but it's true. Like, I'm naturally, I mean, you know me personally, Zach, so you know I'm naturally a highly motivated person, high energy person for the most part. And I was depressed. Like, I wasn't that person that I typically am. I was depressed. I was binge eating. I was out of shape for what I consider in shape, and really just unfulfilled on a day-to-day basis and vibrating at a very low frequency. And so after long enough of that, I had enough, and I came up with an escape plan, which wasn't a real escape plan, but in my mind, this is what I had to do, and I did it. So yeah, it was more of just like finally being tired of being beat down and feeling crushed and feeling that lack of fulfillment in my life, and just knowing that I had the potential to be successful in the fitness industry. And as a coach, I just needed the skills, which is, I quit the job, and then this might be your next question, but I'll kind of transition there anyways. I quit the job, didn't really know what to do, launched a little challenge, got like 20 people in the challenge, didn't convert a single one of them into a real client because I didn't know what to do. I messaged a friend of mine who was a successful coach, and I was like, hey, how do I get people into my program now that they did the challenge? He was like, look, man, I can sit here and talk about this till I'm blue in the face with you, but none of it's going to stick. You just need to join PTBI. And that's what I did. And so you hit me up on Instagram. Greg gave you my Instagram profile. You reached out, and I was all in.
I love it. Yeah, and for the people who don't know, you worked at a power plant. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was a chemical plant. So we made ammonia. So if you know power lifters that sniff ammonia before they do max out, that's what I made.
Yeah, it's crazy. I used to see photos of Drew like with his little helmet on, his little coat on. He's dirty, covered in guck and stuff. So let's fast forward, man. That was, just a couple years ago. And now you're in San Diego. You're living your dream. You're training by the beach. You're training 3 times a day. You have clients working underneath you. You've built this amazing program. You got team members working underneath you. So how does it feel to not only own your business, but actually be inspiring people on a level that you've always dreamed of? Why don't you give people kind of an inside look as to how that might feel?
That's a deep question, bro. The truth is, it's everything that I thought it would be. And, a lot of people say like, don't have high expectations for like your dreams and things like that, because it's not going to be what you think it is. And the reality is, it is exactly what I thought it was going to be. This was literally my dream for the longest. And now we're 3 months into 2023. I'm basically averaging 10K months right now. I have an assistant coach under me. We're building up his roster, and we've built a real community of men. That's who I coach. My program is specifically for men. We have a strong community of men that feed off of one another, and we all just make each other better. Even though I'm the head coach, like even the people in my program that I'm coaching remind me that I can be better and remind me why I'm doing what I'm doing. So it truly is the most fulfilling thing that I could possibly imagine. And so if you're over there, or if you're, thinking about getting started in your online coaching business, just know that if you keep it as coming from a place of service and passion, it will be exactly as fulfilling as you want it to be. There have been times in my journey where I've been overwhelmed by business. I've been overwhelmed by scarcity, or overwhelmed by pressure, that it didn't feel that fulfilling as it does now. But that's part of the journey of business, right? Is getting through those hurdles and getting through those jumps and working through all the hardship that comes from owning your own business. But it is hands down the most fulfilling thing that I could possibly be doing with my life right now. I have moments where I just stop and like, holy shit, this is really happening. Myself and another PTBI student were literally training at a private facility here in San Diego yesterday. We had a videographer recording our workout. We were mic'd up. We were training our asses off. And I just looked at him and I was like, bro, this is fucking wild. We're here in San Diego. We're at a private gym. We're filming our content. Like this is as badass as it gets, man. This is my dream. And I get to go home and I get to go serve my clients. I get to go try to get new clients. Yeah, it's fucking amazing, bro. I can't recommend everyone out there enough to just do it, to take the leap and pursue your dreams. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it.
I love it. Yeah, that's fantastic, man. And I think you do a really good job at glorifying the work, because so many coaches out there are in their training, filming the workouts, and like, I got to film this workout, I got to edit this stuff. But you were like, man, this is amazing. This is what I've always dreamed. This is, I'm sure comparing it to the power plant, you're like, this is literally the dream. So that's really awesome that you're able to keep that perspective. But I know that you had a pretty long learning curve when it came to coming from the background that you had, stepping into entrepreneurship. You had to learn a lot about sales, about generating leads, about closing deals, things like that. And I'm sure with the environment that you grew up in, asking people for money probably didn't feel good at first. So, what was that growth curve like, learning about sales, learning how to close deals, and now you can do it confidently? What did you learn, and how was that growth for you?
So I told you this, I think the first time we met here in San Diego, is that to me, where I'm from in the South, salespeople are kind of looked at as evil. And manipulative. Anybody selling anything is probably trying to scam you. Like that was my initial mindset. And that's a huge limiting belief that you have to overcome if you want to be an entrepreneur, because that couldn't be furthest from the truth. So yeah, I had to learn the skill of sales, right? So going through the course and just practicing as much as I could, practicing with peers, practicing with my girlfriend, and then obviously doing my best to get on sales calls. But I had zero experience, guys, when it comes to sales, lead generation. I didn't even know what any of those terms actually meant. And so it was a long process, but now I'm to the point on my last 12 sales calls I've closed. Literally, I haven't missed a sales call, and maybe even more than 12. I'm saying 12, like just to make sure I'm not overshooting it here. Yesterday, I literally told Kelsey, "Babe, when was the last time you heard me get off a sales call and not close?" She's like, "It seems like it's been months." I was like, "That's because it has."
Wow.
I haven't not closed in a while. And so to go from that to this, from just, where I was with sales, like heart racing, anxious, like, what do I say next? Like worried about this script and like everything, like just know that if you pursue any of these skills, right? Sales, lead generation, DM outreach, content creation, if you pursue all of these things with a mentality of, I am going to attack this and get as good as I possibly can at this one thing throughout this process, I'm like a year and 3 months in, and I'm very surprised every time I don't close a deal. And it's genuinely almost every time because that person isn't actually qualified. Like I'm never getting off the phone with a qualified prospect and not closing them. It's just not happening. And so it was a tough learning curve, but one that I just decided to attack and really overcome. And then one thing that I'll add to that too is just for the people who are kind of getting started is that you're always selling. Being around you really taught me that. I was fortunate enough to train with you consistently and spend a lot of time with you. And I learned that by being around you is that you're always selling, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like when you genuinely believe in your product and your service, you should always be selling it. So when you go to the gym, you're selling. When you're out in public, you're selling. When you're having DM conversations, you're selling yourself. When you have people in your program, you're selling them. You're selling them on the idea that they can achieve their goals. You're selling them on the idea that you can get them there, because although they did believe in it in the first initial investment, you still have to reinsure them and you still have to sell them that idea. Well, I have one more point. You're selling a resign, right? So you're getting them to stay in your program, and you're selling to their whole community. Guys, I have literally coached over probably 2 handfuls of Zach's personal friends because of my ability to try, and because of the way that I'm constantly selling. So that's how I approach every single client, every conversation, everywhere I go, is I'm constantly selling. So now a sales call is nothing to me at this point. A sales call is just like the final transaction to get this person committed to their goals. That's how it feels. Whereas a year ago when I first joined PTBI, literally I was so anxious, I was sweating, and like my hands were clammy, and it was terrifying, bro. So you give all the knowledge that you need in sales and how to create a seamless sales process. And it's just a matter of attacking it with an open mind and saying that I'm going to master this part of the business.
I love that. And yeah, your passion is starting to show through. I think you're listening to this will definitely be able to pick up on that. And I agree, man. In the beginning, sales calls are sales calls. They're scary. They're nerve-wracking. You get nervous. But once you get to the level to where you're at or where we're at, sales calls is simply just another conversation. It's simply just, let me help you figure this out, and we're going to do it together. And that's really it at the end of the day. But something I wanted to ask you about, this is kind of off topic. This could be a little bit more of a personal conversation, but how is Houston?
I didn't really like Houston that much. I'm gonna be honest. It's like New Orleans without the soul. That's the best way to describe it. I don't think I would have liked anywhere I went though. I think in my heart of hearts, I need to be in San Diego, and I don't think anywhere I went would have been worth leaving. So that's why we're back. But Alpha Land was dope.
I was going to say, I think that you have something that I have as well, is a curiosity that needs to taste in order to make a decision. Like anyone can look at Houston and be like, yeah, I mean, it's just another city, but unless you taste it for yourself, you can't really make a full decision. And I'm the same way. But what is it about San Diego that brought you back?
The environment, the people, the frequency. Like I know that may sound funny. Maybe some of you guys watching this aren't into frequencies and energy, but there's an energy in San Diego. And it's also a very nostalgic place for me as well. I visited here a couple times when I was down in the dumps, when I was depressed and I was working at the plant. And it was like this new world of like, I have to be there one day. And so that's also a big part of it, is San Diego itself is nostalgic for me. And I live 2 miles from the beach, man. So I get to go surf. I get to go do jujitsu right on the beach. Like I get to lift weights like right on the beach. It's an endless list of why I live here. And it's an abundant place as well. I think that's important to all the people out there who are thinking about joining PTBI. You're watching this and you're on the fence. First of all, just commit to PTBI. It's going to be worth it. Go all in on yourself and find a place that's abundant. Find a place like the people there are affluent, and it's hard to be abundant in a very scarce place. For me, I had to get away from the scarcity of South Louisiana to truly feel abundant, to get my business to where it is now and to not stress about money. Because back where I'm from, everybody's kind of stressing about money. You know, my family we were well off. You know, my dad worked the same job that I had before I quit. So, you know, he's making just below or just above 6 figures a year. So like we were comfortable, but it's still scarcity. That's the reality, is it's still scarcity in where I'm from. And so the message to anybody, it doesn't have to necessarily be San Diego, but find a place where people are abundant and live there and be in that environment, and it will rub off on you.
I love it. All right, we're nearing towards the end of this interview. What advice do you have to someone who's, you know, I mean, you're just been fire advice this whole time, but you know, what words of advice do you wish you heard before starting this program or at the beginning of your coaching journey?
So I would say I wish I heard this probably 3 or 4 years before I started my coaching journey, because that's when I wanted to. And that would be to put your pride away. I was very prideful. I was a relatively successful amateur bodybuilder. Everybody told me how great I was, and I did all the shows. I prepped myself, and then I was very prideful, and I'll say egotistical to a degree. Like I was just very closed-minded, and my pride kept me from realizing that programs like PTBI were exactly what I needed. So when I heard of business coaches or social media coaches, I thought that's the lamest shit ever. That's a scam. Like, who's going to pay for a business coach? What has this business coach done? Like, that's genuinely how I thought. So I would have loved to be open-minded enough to realize just how impactful a program like PTBI is. To have a expert, because you and the team, you guys are literally experts. And to recognize that you may know fitness. Like, I knew fitness long before I was a full-time fitness coach. I could have been a full-time coach 3 or 4 years before I was, but I didn't understand business. And it's because I was too prideful to seek out a program like PTBI. And so my advice would be to put your pride to the side and realize that in order to grow in life, you need to invest in people who know what you need to know. So PTBI has everything that you need to know about building the foundation of a successful online business. And then also there's Takeover, to where it'll teach you how to scale as well. But the foundational skills and the foundational infrastructure that you need to build a successful online business, PTBI has. And so to put your pride away and realize that you're not going to be able to do that on your own, you need the information, you need the support, and you more than likely need the accountability of the PTBI team to achieve those goals. So put your pride away and seek out mentorship in all aspects of life, not just in business either. In your own fitness journey and anything that you want to get better at, there's somebody out there with the specific knowledge that you need. And so that would be my advice. And that's what I wish I would have known earlier, is put your pride away and invest in a coach.
I love it. Where can people find you online?
Instagram mainly is Drew Favre Fitness. So you can go check me out there, post content pretty consistently. I'm almost up to 10K followers now. So maybe by the time you see this, if it's like 3 or 4 months from now, hopefully I'll be at like 50. But yeah, Drew Favre Fitness on Instagram. Again, guys, I can't recommend PTBI enough. My life would not be where it is without this program. Zach and the entire team are incredibly passionate about your success, and they're also really fucking good. That's the truth. They're really, really good at what they do, and they're going to give you all the support that you need, all the information that you need. And as long as you're willing to work your ass off and really commit to this vision that you have for yourself, you will achieve your goals and build a successful business.
I love it. Drew, thank you so much.
Zach, thank you, brother.